Let's go, San Francisco. As a fat coat in the house for you now.
Let's go, on top to Frisco. It's time to get low. Let me show you how. Hella theater, hella theater, hella theater, hella theater, hella theater, hella theater. It's time for the show.
Trying this again. Check one, check one.
Can you hear us? Hello, hello?
Let us know when you can hear us.
Hello, hello?
Oh, Aida heard a laugh. Aida heard a laugh.
Wonderful.
Yay, sound. Hella theater. Hella theater. Well, this is embarrassing.
It's go back to having a real check rehearsal. Remember that?
I feel like that's like the quintessential year of Zoom. It's I can't hear you. You're on mute. You're on mute. Oh God.
Nope. Someone is not. Who? Is it me? Is it you?
Oh, it's back. It says it's back. Okay, well, we're going it left and now it's back.
Let's barrel on through.
Thank you, Andy XZX, for the tier 3 sub. We love you too.
Much appreciation. Thanks.
All right,
Cedric.
hey y'all. Welcome to Hella Theater. Pardon the technical difficulties. If ever you can't hear something that we're saying, please let us know because our guest tonight is so fire. We don't want you to miss a single word she says, but we'll get to her in just a second.
In a crowd of fires, you couldn't point her out.
Rodney, don't say fire in a crowded theater.
What? I'm at home. This isn't a theater. It is hella theater, but it's not a theater. I know. Hey, stiff upper lip. Sad. Stiff upper lip. We will be back so soon. I saw some new information about those guidelines. You saw that?
We sure will. But before we get there, there is a show that I want everybody to check out. So we are currently residents at the Brava Theater Center for Women in the Arts, and they have a show called Manifesto. And it is so fire. Y'all, this is a show I saw. This was the last thing I think I saw before we went into the Great Quar. And Rotimi wrote and stars in it. It's directed by Idris Cooper. Y'all have to see if you don't see anything else this month, even if you don't tune into Among Us next week, like please do yourself a favor, go see this show.
Rotimi is one of a kind. Rotimi is truly one of a kind. You gotta experience it. You don't need much more of a recommendation than that. Go support this art. Go support that human being. Go do it. It's awesome. It's awesome. Yes. Are we ready for the guest now, Marcelo?
Almost. So just a quick plug, even though this isn't our program, we do want to let artists out there in San Francisco know there is a guaranteed income pilot program. Y'all, $1,000 for 6 months. I mean, sign up. I know a ton of artists who qualify. Y'all get your name in that hat. It's being administered through YBCA. Go check it out. What else? And
maybe
if
someone
you
could
like hearing
someone could put that link in the chat. I can go find it, but if someone has that, put that information in the chat so that we can disseminate that.
Yep. It's up on screen. It says ybca.org/guaranteed-income-pilot. And if you like hearing about opportunities like that, we just started our artist opportunity email list where you can sign up for it on sfbatco.org. We will be sending out information of things like guaranteed income programs or audition notices now that we're back to theaters very soon. So be on the lookout. There's always opportunities. We get hit up. We want to connect you to those communities. You know, we're here for you, fam.
Yes. I just got hit up the other day, Marcelo, from someone I'm not going to say, looking for some young BIPOC artists who are interested in creating their own companies. On the lookout for the next leaders of our community. So yes, be sure to sign up for our listserv on our website. Make sure to get that information.
And if you're not maybe someone who is an artist professionally per se, but you want to stay up to date with what we do, join our SF Batco mailing list. You can also find it at sfbatco.org, and you will be entered into a free t-shirt sweepstakes. You like this shirt? I know you do. So go ahead and sign up. All right.
Wait, is it the shirt you're wearing right now, Marcelo?
It is the shirt I'm wearing right now.
Oh, I want one. I have like 40 in my closet.
Y'all, this is all I wear. Okay, so that's enough chit chat. Let's get into the guest of the hour /day/month/year. Y'all, I'm so excited for our guest. Our guest tonight is the one and only Mina Morita, who is the artistic director of Crowded Fire Theater, which is a critically acclaimed company for new play production on the West Coast.
She has worked at Berkeley Repertory Theater, Magic Theater, Center Repertory Company, ACT, Camposante, Shotgun, the list goes on. Playwrights Foundation, Theater First. Jesus, Mina, you work everywhere. Bay Area Children's Theater, Berkeley Playhouse. It seems like you ain't worked at Batco.
Not yet, but
now you here.
She is the recipient of Theater Bay Area, aka TBA's Outstanding Direction of a Musical in 2014, and nominated by TBA for Outstanding Direction of a Play in 2017, as well as Shell Awards. I hope I'm saying that. No, Shelley Awards for Best Director in 2018.
She's also served as a panelist with the Zellerbach Family Foundation, San Francisco Arts Commission, and the Hewlett Foundation.
And she was chosen as one of the YBCA 100 for, quote, asking questions and making provocations that will shape the future of culture. And this was just a small highlight of this fully stacked bio. Y'all help us welcome Mina Morita.
Morita!
Hey, Mina.
Hey, how's it going?
So happy to have you.
Thanks for having me. I've been watching your stream. It's great to be here.
Yay, we're so happy to have you in the flesh, or as close to the flesh as we can be right now in this I'm gonna say post-pandemic, present pandemic world.
Almost.
Right.
So, Mina, we're gonna hop into a new segment tonight, but before we do, I always have to ask our guests, what are you eating tonight? Because personally, I have a delicious shroom melt over here that I got from the Ocean Ale House. Shout out Ocean Ale House. But enough about me. What are you munching on over there?
That looks delicious. I had like 45-minute break between a very long Zoom day. So like I made some shishito peppers.
Ooh.
And I have some just very basic macaroni and beef that my grandma used to make. So I'm going to enjoy that and my rosé.
Yes. Yeah, I got a little under the weather yesterday, so I'm sipping on chicken broth.
That sounds good too.
Yeah, it is kind of nice and soothing right after a long day. We have long days You are the AD of a company. Oh wait, I'm giving all the things away. We got to ask the questions. Start with the history. Look at me. I'm so bad. Marcelo, take it. Go.
Okay, so SF Backo fam, we have a new segment tonight on Hella Theater called The Origin Story Abridged. So we are going to ask our wonderful guest here a quick lightning round. Oh, there's the image. A quick lightning round of origin story questions that they have no idea what we're going to ask. So, Mina, thank you so much for being our first. You're going to do a natural. I know you are. So, here we go. What was your first play ever?
That I was involved in? In junior high, St. George and the Green Dragon.
Okay, St. George and the Green Dragon. Dang. At what point did you choose to pursue theater professionally?
I would say that was in freshman year. So I transferred from visual arts at Rhode Island School of Design and then moved into theater in NYU. So that's where all of this madness began.
Wow.
Woo, she said goodbye, RISD. Hello, NYU.
That's incredible.
Okay.
I know this is fast. I want to unpack that. Okay, keep going. Keep going.
Lightning round, Rodney. Lightning round.
I know.
What brought you to the San Francisco Bay Area?
A whim, no job, no place to live, nothing. I just came out and then figured it all out once I got here.
I love
after
that.
school. Yeah.
That's amazing. Are you serious? You just like
all right.
blew? Sorry, I'm the worst. I'm the worst. Mute me.
Someone come get my co-star. And what are the top 3 favorite projects you've ever worked on?
Oh, that's hard. Okay. Young Jean Leads the Shipment and Crowd of Fire was one of my faves. I would say the next one is Where the Mountain Meets the Moon with Min Kong at Bay Area Children's Theater. And the third I would have to say was, that's a really hard one. This is when I was more of an observer, but I got to work with Sir Ian McKellen and Sir Patrick Stewart in No Man's Land at Berkeley Rep. I was in the rehearsal with them. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, I saw that, but more on that later. I'm now turning into Rodney. And now here is our last question, and the most controversial that I'll always ask. What is the best burrito in the Bay?
The Bay? You can't even say San Francisco? That's crazy, Marcelo. The whole Bay Area.
I have no answer for you. Cactus Taqueria. I mean, I tend also not to eat burritos. Like I tend to have tacos just because like it's burrito's giant for me. So yes.
What did you say? What place?
Cactus Taqueria, which is not the best. I know it's not the best. I do like Papitos, even though I know staff who I work with is like Papitos sucks, which is but I do love, and they charge way too much for their burrito. It's like, one of those. But
put them on blast.
No, that could be your favorite. I always say, for me, and people fight me on this, and I get why, because you want to talk about a $1,200 burrito, it's La Taqueria. But I've been eating there since I can remember, and so that's always going to be my goat. Fight me in the chat if you really want. But I always like hearing from other people because I'm open, and I always want a new good burrito. So.
Well, next time you come to Portrero Stage and come see Crowd of Fire show, I will buy you a Papito burrito. And like, I can see that Lee is backing me up in the chat here. So thank you, Lee.
Okay, Lee. Okay. It's a date. It's a date.
Hey, Lee in the chat. Appreciate you being here.
All
right.
Okay. So thank you so much for entertaining our newest segment of The Origin Story Abridged. That was really fun. Thank you for playing along.
It's a cool little snapshot of your life and a fun little, even though I interrupted the entire time. So I'll take the notes and we'll try this again next time.
But so for being such a great sport, you have won another 40 minutes with us talking about this. So
Nice.
Mina, we are here because so actually I want to give everyone a little backstory on Hella Theater. If you're just tuning in for the first time, Rodney and I decided to bring this idea to life because after George Floyd was murdered, we wanted to talk to other artists in our network and in our community about a whole myriad of issues because, while it started in that one moment, much about what we're reckoning with, not only in the theater world, but in the world at large. It's not just one issue. There are so many things that we have to tackle. And so, we said, just because like the world started kind of coming at us and being like, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And there were a lot of questions that we didn't really have answers to. And we were like, we want to talk to other people and kind of see where they're at. Because just because we're, LGBTQ BIPOC artists doesn't mean that we can't get things wrong. And so we want to be better, not only for ourselves, but so that we can also be better for our community. So tonight, we asked you here, Mina, to talk a little bit about creating accountability because you have been a part of this really wonderful movement. And so let's just jump right into it. So what is the accountability work group?
So the accountability work group is a group made up of artistic directors, managing directors, and executive directors from across the Bay Area region. And basically is hosted and guided by a seed group. And all of us are looking at trying to affect or I would say actually be responsible to each other and build relationships with each other in order to actually have change happen inside of our organizations. That would be maybe the short and sweet of it.
Yeah.
But it's so complicated.
And exactly what inspired you to want to join this kind of an effort that has this mission that you just talked about?
Well, I mean, I think very similarly to what you're describing, it's like with the horrible murder of George Floyd and, especially looking back right now with the Chauvin trials, it's like, I think so many of us were looking at the reality, the, emperor wears no clothes reality of what was happening in the theater field. And realizing that in this moment, none of us had any answers and that it was a chance to kind of be all at a level of change where we were coming into it together. So following the We See You demands and the Living Doc, which I think was an incredible, powerful statement and a roadmap really for all of us organizations to affect change in the field as a whole because of the changes we were making inside of our organizations, that there was about anywhere between 17 to 13 of us on the seed team that started to shape like 2 to 3 meetings a month, usually on Thursdays, where the whole community, we started about 80 and now we're at about 55, 60, and we're going to grow larger again, met to really talk about how we were meeting those demands and how we were meeting this moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it
was
was like
a huge commitment. It started last year. What time exactly?
June, July. I think June, July. I don't remember the exact date. I mean, like, what is time these days? Feels like 10 years ago on some days.
Almost a year.
Feels like yesterday on another day. But yeah, I mean, it's like, for me, it's like, how do we move away from the optics and how do we really affect, like, have action, like, I'm really, as much as I appreciate the solidarity statements, like, it's only a statement. And if it's not really landing in some way on people, then it doesn't matter. So.
Oh, so actually, I'm a little curious about this because now that we're almost a year out from specifically George Floyd's murder, like, this is where it gets tricky. Like, we're using this now as a marker of like a very big pivotal change. And it's not to say that I don't understand the reason behind it. Like, this is something that's got to change in you when you see a 9-minute video of someone literally struggling for life and then it ending literally right before your eyes. And then to put that on the global scale. But one thing that Rodney and I talked a lot about after that moment, and when Black Lives Matter resurfaced yet again, is that we were hoping that this didn't turn into Black Lives marketing, right? Because we were seeing a lot of statements of solidarity from companies, and it's like, okay, that's great, but what is the actionable thing, like you said? And I feel like now we're at a point where there are some companies that we are seeing some really solid change, and I don't mean just in theater, I mean, you know, in across the board, but it also starts to walk a fine line of performance. And when is something performative versus action? And is there a way you can identify the difference?
I think, let's be honest, the people who can tell us what the difference is any or most BIPOC members of staff, artists who move through the organization are going to actually feel the difference. And it's not going to be on whether leadership says we've made these changes or not. It's going to be on if the culture of the place starts to shift in a way that we all feel like we not only feel safe, bottom line, like, can we be safe at work? Can we be safe as an artist? Can we be safe creating? And the other is really like, do we feel like we belong?
Right.
You know, that it's not transactional, like you're saying, it's not performative. And this is the challenge, right? Like in the theater, we're really fucking good at performing and we know what to say, and we've all learned how to write grants. And so, you know, we know how to say in a grant, we're working on it with our board, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, working on it could be like, we're creating an EDI committee. What does that even mean? Like, you know, so much money put towards maybe consultants that are really managed by the managers, right? So I think the easiest answer is ask the most vulnerable person in any room, in any rehearsal room, in any staff meeting, what is really happening. And that is going to be the answer of if something that comes out in words on our websites are performative or if they're actualized.
Yeah. You know, it's so fascinating. You, the AD of Crowded Fire, you guys have been very active in practicing accountability, you know, and being accountable, doing it, you know. Have you seen any or noticed any surprises thus far from the work that you do, and why the accountability is important, or anything in that area?
You mean within our own organization or like?
Correct. Yeah.
Totally. I mean,
I want you to speak from like your perspective.
totally, from my experience. I mean, I think at the beginning of all this and to this day, like at every step, I am a student, you know, and our organization is a student. And we're constantly learning about ourselves, right? So like even going through every single one of the We See You demands, it's like some of them are hard and will require years of work. And being able to have an honest conversation about that and pull away from the fragility of that conversation. I think, you know, one of the things I'm spending a lot of time on is really, I feel like one of my friends was saying to me, I think, you know, they thought that this COVID time would be like to read whatever the largest, you know, War and Peace or whatever novel, but actually it's like relearning American history.
Yes.
And
Say that.
like,
Yes.
you know, and that's true for me. That's true for all of us. It's like to really support re-indigenization and understand and learn. Like, I feel like, I don't know, like think about how many years of school we had, you know, like 18 years of school for some of us, 12 to 18 years of school. And
I had to re-quote you. I just quoted you on the stream.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I gotta write that down.
It's like we're trying to fit all that learning because we didn't learn it in this time. Like we could be reading a book a day. And that's just theory. And like, how do we make that a lived experience, like a lived truth? So I think that's super important. You know, within Crowded Fire, we're not only going through the We See You demands, but we've been working with this incredible ED&I consultant. I almost feel like weird saying ED&I consultant because Walker is so much more than that, and we're getting into it. And like, especially with the AAPI violence that we've, encountered over the last year plus, but also
decades.
like more, yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
hyper aware and feeling right now, and needing to have action or move around is that how do we build solidarity, right? Like, in my mind, there is no other way forward that is going to serve us. And again, by making the most vulnerable person in the room, and at any turn, then we're actually going to be supporting all of us in this work. And so it's like we're trying to learn AAPI history. We're trying to learn Indigenous history. We're trying to learn Latinx history. We're like learning African American Black history. Like all of these things, queer history. I mean, it's like, disability justice history. It's like it's a lot, and it's also like really trying to hone in on some of the super problematic things and figure out how to do that in conjunction, and also be specific. So that's a long answer to your question.
No, that's beautiful.
Yeah. No. Amazing. Like snaps on claps. And I just really want to highlight.
Yeah. I'm feeling good for what you're saying. I love it.
I just want to highlight Issa's comment in the chat that she said Issa's on our staff and is a very integral core team. She says, I, for one, have not found any comfort in anyone's AAPI statement. And again, I think that's super, super real. And, we actually had this conversation in one of our staff meetings not too long ago where we were wrestling. We're like, well, like, do we put out a statement the way that we did when Black Lives Matter happened? Because we have several AAPI, people on our team, and the general collective feeling was, well, no, like, what are we going to do with a statement? We need action. We need things. And so, Rodney and I really wanted to listen and take like the lead from someone else to say, okay, I like it. It affects all of us, but it definitely affects the people who are going through it way more than it affects myself, right? And so we have to learn how to take cues and, like you said, listen to, at this point, the most vulnerable people in our rooms. But on that, Mina, I have a question for you, because I imagine your rooms look pretty similar to ours, right? So how, like, in companies like ours, how do we identify the most vulnerable person in our room?
Whoa, what a question.
That's a great question. As a group, I think it's about having, like in Walker's case, really like talking about where we're coming from on a given moment. Because the violence is moving in cycles. And so that answer is different depending on the context of the day. And it's also like, it's about how not to create dynamics of oppression Olympics, but actually like, how do we really think about, everything. And like, I really think for me, Crowded Fire for me, it's really been about looking at our Black artists' voices and narratives at this time, and that for me as an AAPI leader, it is for me to be vocal and speak personally about the harms that have been inflicted upon me. And then for both and all, it has been to, I think I'm like in there are so many programs that in the last 6-7 months that we've created to combat this on all different levels, all the issues on all the levels. So I'm hoping that something hits everyone in some kind of a way. And I really think about, like, Hannah Sharif the other day in a town hall was saying the pain we feel in this like dynamic of building solidarity when we see another one of our BIPOC like colleagues, friends, family going through something is a reflection of our own pain. And that sense of not being belonging, of having to prove our humanity over and over and over again, and seeing that, reflected in the news. And that was not her quote by any means, but that is what entered into me that night. And that we have to acknowledge our feelings and any sense of shame or guilt that comes with like any moments of complicity that every single one of us has had in our life. And really start to unpack what that is and be ready to, I was talking to Eric Ting, who's been here on the stream too. It's like, how do we use, if we have power of any kind, which to me is like also like whiteness is power. And so like when we have that proximity or when we're in a position of power, like how do we use that as a superpower to support everyone else we can possibly support, and especially thinking about the future generation. So,
oh my God, you be dropping gems. Hold up, I gotta write this down. How do those with power use their power as a superpower? Like oh my God. All right, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm writing that down for myself. Sorry,
I don't even know what I said, Rodney.
You said it.
Whatever you say, whatever you write is good. It's like firm forever.
I love that, because there are, we part of the reason Marcel and I wanted to create this company was because there weren't leaders who looked like us. And when it comes to leader, you're right. Leadership positions have this supremacist model, but we knew that we needed to create something in order to start to hire the people that our narrative meant, because we weren't being represented in other places. But it has been a balancing act of like, there is power and then there is accountability, and that managing that. And especially in an artistic community, we were talking about that earlier, Marcella, where we definitely always have to be respectful. We always have to be conscious of those people who are vulnerable. And we have to be true to our art, which is talking about vulnerable situations, highs and lows, apexes, climaxes. Most of the American catalog of plays are about, very complicated issues and times. And so it's not to say that we're not going to be doing like your easy Teletubby plays, but we have to still be respectful. My question is, how do you hope the work of the accountability group will change the art that we see?
So my firm belief, and this is the kind of theater that I like to make, is the more someone believes they belong as an artist, the more courageous they can be. And the type of work I love to make is interrogative. It's like my partner was laughing at me because we were at some barbecue and somebody's like, what kind of theater did you make? And I was like, granted I'd had like a drink, and I was like, I make the kind of theater that's going to smack you across the face and make you think about like what it is about your life that you're like comfortable with, and like maybe like have some thoughts about, constructs of cultural comfort and like where that all comes from. But anyway, so he was like, you just said that as we walked away. He's probably watching right now. Anyway, so yeah. So
that's dope. Yeah. So I hope to see that kind of art too. Very interrogative, very in your face, unapologetic. That is the hope, right?
Brave, right? Like we can be brave. And I think it's when we are resourced. We're not like the little project on the side. We're not the small theater that hasn't been funded. It's like all the stuff that we're fighting. It's a constant uphill battle. And it's not about the like saying, give us more money for the sake of being whiny at all. It's like, can you imagine if all of us were working at our full potential, total courage, like just the amount of visionary work that could be coming out that we've actually probably missed out over these last 40, 50 years because everything's been so programmed, and that's not the kind of space that's created at a large theater. Sure, it looks slicker. That's great. But like what the plays that in some of these larger houses have been developed in smaller spaces. They've been really nurtured, and those people haven't been, told, oh, that's not a linear narrative or whatever, version of that you want to put out there. So I really think like
you speak my language. You speak our language so much. I'm like over here gonna combust. I'm like, oh my God. We've been on Zoom all day too, like you were saying earlier, talking about, but we are so privileged to have these deep kinds of conversations all the time. about where we see the future, why, who we want to be a part of that. And like now culminating with this conversation with you, I'm like, we're doing this all for a reason. This is all for a reason. It just, I don't know, I'm having a moment. It just feels like things are lining up for the right. You're saying all the stuff. You're like answering things that we've been talking about. And I'm like, you're who we need to be working with. People need to be hearing what you're saying more often. Because this is actually the future, the path that we need to be taking. Sorry, I interrupted you. Keep going.
Yeah.
Rodney,
no, I mean, I was thinking about this. Oh no, go.
No, go for it.
Okay. I was just going to say, for this, there's a BIPOC space we want to create within the accountability work group as well. This is like the next iteration, as well as the continued large accountability work group space. And
nice.
I just, we're going to be checking in with everyone about like what it is that we want to manifest together and how we want to use the space. And I just keep imagining like, how about if there's this partnership, collective work,
right?
Aggregated power, but power for superpower for good, like and also dealing with our own shit, and that we have to do within our community, but building of solidarity.
Yes.
And so like what happens when we are no longer centering whiteness, and what happens when we are creating, this came out of another town hall, like our own theology, like what does that even mean?
Yes.
What does that mean? And what would that be like? I mean, there's another whole like thing, I think a lot. This idea of like the old paradigm.
It shows. I love it.
Like the old paradigm is sort of in hospice, right? So like BIPOC folks who are like trying to support what exists, because this is where a lot of economy still lives, right? And that there's a gap between that and what's coming up from beneath, which is a new paradigm. And this new paradigm is more along the lines of Adrienne Marie Brown, who I like is incredible to me. And, the idea of like, all of us are like dandelion seeds. There's like, the more of us there are in the new paradigm doing all kinds of stuff, this new thing is going to emerge, and we don't know what that's going to be yet. And we have no idea. And yes, there's a gap. So there's going to be like sustainability issues. There'll be like issues of people in sort of the sort of dying paradigm that might continue to be injured. But like what happens as more of us kind of filter down and like become part of this newer paradigm that's going to rise. I'm excited for that.
The shift is happening. I feel it.
Yeah.
There's a shift.
Oh, 100%. Rodney, I just want to point out that you do not need to worry about writing every last thing. I love that you are, but just as a reminder to everyone watching, this video will stay up for 2 weeks. So if there's if there, all the gems that are dropping down here, raining pennies from heaven, like you can come back and rewatch this show anytime. And if you're just joining us, don't worry, you can come back and watch. Oh my God, sorry, I just realized there's a level 1 hype, like squirrel on too much coffee right now. Thank you, everybody at home. If you're just joining in, this is SF Back Close Hella Theater. We are with our guest, Mina Morita. We are talking about creating accountability.
Yes.
I see some new folk in the chat and some old returning folk in the chat. I see Neo Sky. Hey, Neo Sky, what's up? Good. Nice to see you. Thank you to everybody for the bits and the subs. I promise we'll shout you out at the very end of our stream. We appreciate your support. Thank you for being here with us. If you have questions at home, please do not be quiet. We want to hear from you. We will try to field them as best as we can, because our time is sadly not, it is not sadly, our time is what it is. It's time.
Right.
It's existent. But we do have only a little bit more time with our wonderful guest, Mina Morita. So if you have a question for her, please pop it into the chat. We want to hear from you.
I quickly want to go back to hear a little bit more about that decision to come to San Francisco on that whim and what that was like for you. So many young artists nowadays who are BIPOC like us, making those types of jumps and leaps don't seem tangible. What made it so practical for you?
I don't think it was practical at all. Is the answer to that.
Well, there it is.
I had graduated, and I don't know, my family's, on the East Coast at the time, and I just needed change. And I love I feel like in my bones, I love disruption. I love change. It's part of like my learning process for myself and for all this like patterns I see around me. And it was just time. So I just came out, and I had like one friend here at UC Berkeley at the time. And then I just like figured it out and got a job and like found a place, and then just kept going from there. I don't know.
And founded a theater company. And how did you come to found this company? Like, can we hear about that story a little bit?
Rodney, I did not found.
Sorry, found. When did you become the AD? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things in between.
Yeah.
So like, Rebecca Novick started this now 23 years ago, Credit Fire.
Wow.
When I was in school and stuff, like so many people, I was like, I'd like to run a theater company one day. I think it'd be really good at it, blah, blah, blah. And then I, from there, I was like in all kinds of temp jobs and all kinds of stuff. And then was working at Kaiser for a brief blip there in their educational theater programs, and then got the fellowship at Berkeley Rep.
That's great. Nice.
Yeah. So I started there, and, as many challenges as they have, they've also been like part of my lived experience and where I've learned so much about who I am as an artist, and shotgun players as well. And then from there, it just was like, when Marissa Wolf, I always joke, she was the fellow right before me. She was an intern, and I was an intern for the first year, and the second year as a fellow. So I was like the FinTern. And then I followed Marissa. Marissa was leaving Crowded Fire. And so I applied to this organization. And at the time I was like, I don't know. Cause I was working part-time at Berkeley Rep on purpose so I could continue to work on my directing. And then I was like, actually, I did a whole personal mission statement. And I decided that what I really wanted to do was help to strengthen community, especially through art making. And so it just made so much sense for me to think about. At the time, I think it was also really about like how, I don't have the language I had now, but it was like how we are all interconnected, and how actually that's more important in some ways than the opposite. And so, yeah. So I arrived here. That's kind of, and so it's been 6 years, which is like, oh my God.
That's about as long as our company's been founded, ain't it, Marcelo?
So you know what 6 years feels like? Yeah. It's been a lot.
Thank you for that. I don't know, Marcia, you have another question. I wanted to hop in with another one, if you don't mind.
No, go for it.
I wanted to hear more about because I know we talked last year, and you were saying, do you want to be a part of this group with us? And I did, but I did feel a little, how do you say that? Pulled in many directions of like being one of the young Black men in this community who's an artist, who's also gay, who's from here, who's, representing something, but also just representing me. Mm-hmm. And I was, pulled in a lot of different things. And at a point, I felt a little overwhelmed, because it's like, we need, I saw Margot Hall on like every single panel, I'm like, ooh, she needs a break, like that there was that kind of sensibility that we can't, the Black and brown ambassadors of this community can't be the teachers and fix everyone's problems, or everyone's, now new awakening to what racism is and discrimination. And, so I did feel not overwhelmed, but I felt a little overloaded, I think. And I appreciate talking to you then, but now I'm really interested in this BIPOC accountability group. Can you talk more about what that, or if you're comfortable with that, talking about what that is? Okay.
Totally. So, we started with a whole group, and what's amazing to me, a little backstory, is that up until 2017, there was a group of 16 ADs that met right after Trump was elected. That was the first time that an AD group had gathered in the Bay Area, period.
Wow.
Which blew my mind.
Wow, really?
So then with the accountability work group, this was the first time that a group like this had been formed where we were building true community, because behavior change doesn't happen unless there's actual relationship and there's trust and there's accountability. Accountability comes from relationship.
Right.
So so we've been focusing on this group, and over time there has been, some folks are moving along at a faster clip and understanding than others. And that's been frustrating, but also like not unsurprising. And I think there's a lot of tools at play around the optics and performativity, right? Like EDI in itself, that term, and like what that means on a certain level is also playing to the optics and the comfort, moving at the comfort of whiteness, right? And and so we're moving into action space with the larger group, but I think a lot of our BIPOC leaders were like, first of all, we're less resourced. So we don't have 40 staff members, to work with. We don't have a million, several plus budget to work with. We're like, we have to focus on just our sustainability. And like you're saying, just how much, because it's not like we're just doing our jobs. We're on every panel. We're like trying to speak about our experience so that people understand in this moment that really feels like a fissure, whereas it was like a huge disruption that was important. Like it was, we could not make theater. We had to come to terms with how we were carrying on racism within our own institutions within this work. For the artists who moved from place to place within each of our organizations, they were actually being traumatized in many different kinds of ways. The Living Doc had 600 testimonials. And so for this, so we've focused on that. And now I think that is moving along. What's important for us is to think about the BIPOC colleagues, communities, artists, and how do we want to shape what is coming next, and really embrace our power for collective work, partnership, action, pressure, advocacy, communication amongst us, all of that, solidarity building. And so the idea that we're hoping for over the next several months is to build out that space. And it will include not only the original BIPOC leaders who are hopefully, depending on if people want to join up, because I also understand there's like so muchness. And also some BIPOC folks, a number of BIPOC folks who are already within different organizations that might be primarily white institutions, and then freelance leaders and community members who are focused on theater. So that all of these groups, we're going to be gathering some small groups to figure out like what isn't on everyone's minds, and then like shape that space. So we don't have an answer yet about what it's going to be or what the goals of that space are going to be. It's kind of like the AW when I talk to you, like we're building the plane as we're flying it. So, but that's how collective work happens. Like I've learned so much about not having a hierarchical situation. And yes, there's like issues with it here and there, but overall, I've learned so much. I feel like I've been through like 10 years of graduate school or something, just moving through this with the brilliant people in the SEED team. So, yeah.
I love that. And I really want to highlight the fact that this seems to be very successful without that sense of hierarchy, which is, I think I've seen, unfortunately, too many examples of that starting a certain way and then epically failing. So to hear that that's succeeding is so great, so much to the point that we, and I got to take credit for this, we misrepresented. We were like, it was the creator of the ADO. And you were like, hey guys, thank you so much for having me on the show, but I didn't create this. Like, this is really the work of a bunch of people. Yes. And oh shit, like my bad. But that's amazing. Like, because like in terms of creating accountability, we all have to be accountable in terms of, it's like, no, I didn't create this. We created this. This is the way we're going. And I love how you talk about describing this plane, like you're building it as it's kind of taking off and flying.
Yeah.
And I love that as so much that what I really also want to see is for people who consider themselves allies to really take this opportunity to support, whether it's just sitting back or helping find something like fun. I don't know what the needs are of this group yet, because we are jumping into this fight.
Heck yeah.
Just to be
That
very
sounds so
clear.
interesting. I want to be part of that,
But-
Mina.
But like, I want people to also kind of speak with where like it counts, which sometimes is your wallet. And like, because it's so hard for me. Like, and I think this is where it stings the most, is that we come from a industry that is supposed to rely on empathy and understanding. And somehow we're at this point where it's like, I can't teach you how to give a shit.
Say
Like,
that.
I don't know what else to do. We can put these traumatic stories on stage, and you still somehow walk away from this being like, like, no. And like, part of this is also like a big driving factor in terms of the programming that we're really trying to develop, is how do we move away from the trauma and talk about joy, because it can't just be about the horrible things that happen to our communities and our lives, because that's so one-dimensional and it's untrue. Right. Like, they're related and they're juxtaposing, but like, where there is pain, there is also an abundance of love. There is people laughing, there is people eating food, like, and those stories really see the light, and it's so frustrating. So like, have you seen any, like, I'm hoping the answer is yes, like, what kind of evolution are you seeing in people to be like, oh yes, I do care?
I think yes. Like, I'm really done with trauma porn, which is on so many of our stages. Number one, just to respond to like the amazing things you just said. And I just want to shout out Jordan, who's in the chat as well, and Lee, who are part of the C team also. I don't know if I caught everyone in the chat, but just incredible people. To say that, look, I have learned more from like my queer, trans, Black friends, artists, than anyone, and especially around movement building. And I just think that if we think about Octavia Butler and so many other brilliant people who have manifested a future for us and continue to do so, like, imagine if we're not embracing trauma, we're actually like sitting here creating worlds, like creating worlds that we're going to inhabit in the future. And thinking about like, what have I seen change? We had a conversation about this maybe in December, but there is, we're all at different levels of growth around this conversation, from like just barely starting to become aware that our behavior is a problem, realizing that we have power to actually apologize for behavior, get over and like have some shame resilience and like really just dig into apology, and then to really reframe all of the systems and infrastructure that create harm in the first place, and then ultimately like have behavior change. And that's the scaffolding of the accountability work group. And I think there is a middle band there, especially of about maybe 10 to 15 organizations, and hopefully that will grow, that is starting to shift into the next level. And then you know what I mean? Like, you move one level to the next, then you move the next level to the next. This is to have actual change. It has to be deep. It can't be words on a website. And so my hope is that culture shift can happen if, like, if there's enough of us that kind of move. And so even like at Credifier, the resident artist created, all of us together, an artist anti-racist toolkit, which is just flashcards at present asking a series of questions about how each of us, whenever we buy a ticket, whenever we're asked to join a project, anything, ask questions about what the anti-racist policies are at the organization, how the project's going to be supported, if we are able to be considered for other projects that are not necessarily related to our race, like who else is on staff, how is the marketing going to go. If we start to really ask these questions and not be like, thank you so much for this job, then real change can happen. And this is where the BIPOC space is exciting to me, is that if we get organized and we start talking about our experiences from month to month with each other, and like, just like the living doc talking about what's real, then we can help each other as we're in a position of negotiation with an organization, and or we can really push for change from within an organization and put pressure from the outside of an organization as well. So I don't know. I just think like it's still a lot of work. We're still doing the work that should just be done. But I'd really love for all of us to be able to choose whatever incredible artistic project there is without fear of being isolated, being harmed, and being told not to communicate with other people about what really happened. Like that's we saw that with Harvey Weinstein. We saw that with the Me Too movement. We're seeing this all over. It's like white supremacist traits and corporate American capitalism have created this dynamic. And
we're seeing it with voting rights right now.
Yeah, seriously. It's like we have all learned more about our government probably in the last year than any time in our lives. And
that's why I wear this shirt.
Never again,
Gotta support these two men who changed our Senate, and they're down there in Georgia trying to. Everything you said, thank you, Mina. Man, what this is just a lot, and it's everything. I so appreciated the perspective and the nuance and how you the way you say it. It's illuminating, and I'm excited to have more conversation with you. I feel like I could do some growing from you. You said you learned a lot from queer, Black, trans people. I'm not trans, I'm queer and Black, but I can learn a lot from you. I am so interested in us meshing more together, and
amen to that.
Seeing where that can go.
Yes, this is the future.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Well, I hate to cut our conversation short, but I know you have somewhere to be, and which is fine because we're all heading over to that party
yes,
in just a second. Y'all stick in just a moment. We're going to go raid Crowded Fire's Twitch stream, which if you're not already following Crowded Fire, what's wrong with you? Go ahead and follow them. But you can stay here for just a little while longer because we are going to go raid them in just a second. But Mina, seriously, so much, like from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming on this. Like so many of our guests who come on, I'm left with even more questions, but I am also left feeling so full and so hopeful for the future for the first time in a very long time. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes, so much. I feel joy, and that feels great.
It feels so good. The more of us there are, the lighter the work. So I'm excited to talk to you more all about the accountability work group soon.
Yes.
We absolutely.
And thank you everybody in the chat. It's great to have you here. And thank you for all of you CT members who are in there. Like, so much love to you all.
Before you run, is there anything you want to plug real quick? Anything coming up at Crowded Fire?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be a producer if I wasn't plugging something. So on our Twitch stream tonight, we have Leon Jones, who's incredible. Talk about the future Youth Uproar Theater. We're supporting their work there. So please come on and raid the Crowded Fire stream. Also wanting to let you know that in May, we are going to have a series of readings from our Resilience and Development R&D Lab of playwrights, Alan Holt, Eugenie Chan, Linda Giron, and Julius Rea. We're going to do a reading every Thursday night. We're going to put all that up soon. And we've been meeting monthly since December 2019. So like we are changed people.
I love Linda. Yes.
And then this fall, this is it. We have a stream that we did on Tuesday. You can catch it, a recording of it. But we had the whole creative team, actor, stage manager, and playwright, and associate director, talking about The Displaced by Isaac Gomez, which is a horror play about displacement. It's amazing. Ooh. And we're going to be in rehearsal in person starting August 3rd, 4th. And we're going to be opening mid-September.
Yes.
Real theater.
Yes. Mina, where can people go? Where should they go online?
www.crowdedfire.org. So definitely check us out there, and you can find out all the information about the displaced. And we are going to be posting more about the May readings very, very soon. Please follow us on Facebook at Crowded Fire, Instagram, and Twitter. So
yes,
thank you.
they are 501c3 too, which means they're nonprofit, which means you are going to get a tax deductible donation if you give to them. So go give to this incredible theater organization in the Bay. Yes, thanks, Mina. I am so excited about all that lineup. Yes. All right. Well, it's time to rate.
All right.
Play, by the way,
wait.
sorry. It's like
Marcelo's going to what? He's going to do what?
Be directing Linda's play.
Oh my God.
I'm very excited. I just finished reading the script today. It's fire. More on that soon, y'all.
Crowded Fire.
Anyway, Mina. Mina, thanks again so much. We're going to let you go, and we're going to wrap this puppy up so we can head over to Crowded Fire. So thanks again. We'll see you in just a bit.
Bye.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us for this beautiful conversation. I'm very, very excited for all the things coming through this artistic, a different word for pipeline. We're going to work on that, I promise.
Yeah. I'm so stuffed.
If you like what
I only had soup. I had broth and I'm like stuffed. Oh, I'm going to combust with all that. The bombs she was dropping. I'm going to go watch this stream again. I have to.
I'm with you. I am like spiritually stuffed, but I still have a whole sandwich here that I gotta eat. So I'm gonna go stuff my face with that. Please join us as we raid Crowded Fire in just a little bit. Also, though, like what you saw, we'll be back next Thursday. We're doing a new stream next week, a little take on Play Day. We're gonna be playing Among Us. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't, but either way, you should join us. And if you're interested with us, this is a little take on a little theater game that we call Mafia, but it's just digital and it's really taken off. So we're going to play with some people on our team. Come join us. Same Twitch channel, same Twitch time. You know where to find us. Yes. All right, Rodney. Anything else from you?
No, I'm stuffed. I'm so happy. We're blessed to be in this community of artists right now. Such good things. I'm excited to see the rest of Crowded Fire's Twitch tonight.
Yes. I am finding them right now, Crowded. All right, y'all. Well, we're going to stop talking and we'll see you over there. When you see the little thing that says join raid, click join. You're not going to want to miss this. Yeah. All right. Bye, Batco fam. We'll see you next week.
Have a good one. Sound.
Let's go, San Francisco. As a back coat in the house for you now.
Let's go, on tap to Frisco. It's time to get low. Let me show you how. Hella theater, hella theater, hella theater, hella theater. It's time for the show.
Sorry, are we still on audio? Hey everybody, we're on audio. We're glad that the raid worked.
All right, here we go.
Hope you have a good night. Bye. Yay, it worked.